Good morning, good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Leon, and welcome to From the Left. I'm running for Virginia's 8th district here, and I would like to thank you, the GCD Network, for hosting the show. I hope everyone's having a good Easter. I was able to see my grandmother. She's in her overtime years. I like to think of life as in quarters. Very competitive guy myself. It's life's a game. If you look at it in 20-year increments, right? So she's in her overtime. I just finished my halftime. Third quarter for me started. Feeling pretty good about it. So, Easter. Last week I was questioning myself, and that's the thing about it. Question everything. Okay. And once you discover the truth to that, then just accept it and move on. You're enlightened. You know what I mean? What is truth? It's the ancient Greeks would say what you could interpret, what tangible kind of things that you have. Einstein would say that imagination is more important than knowledge. Well, if you have too much imagination and not enough knowledge, then you could probably have disillusionment, right? And if you have too much knowledge, not enough information, then you can't build anything new. You know what I mean? So if you think of anything that Einstein accomplished or anything, any imagination, or just how the brain functions, left brain, right brain, gray matter that connects it all. So what does Easter bunnies and eggs have to do with the resurrection of Jesus Christ, right? And one thing about religion, just mentioning that, as a politician, I don't think everything evolves. And that's the one thing to be said about Christianity. Out of all the Abrahamic religions, it seems to be the only one that wants to evolve, right? If you go back to Martin Luther, in how they were trying to break away from the dogma or just the authority, just the way the Catholic Church was, right? And all the wars and everything like that. Being from Virginia, and knowing that our state is named after Elizabeth I from England, and everything that was going on with Spain, and the division between Protestant and Catholic, right? And it was Queen Elizabeth's thing to rule her people based on their deeds, not their beliefs, right? So, which is pretty cool. And England was able to defend themselves against the most feared of all navies at the time, that was Spain. And looking at this stuff, I don't look at it with resentment. I'm mixed with English, Spanish, Greek, Aztec. Science tells us Africa. Everyone's African, right? So still just questioning, why is it like, just because you're politicians, we're not sermons. Every church that I've ever been to, every service there, it's always about, sure, there's stories and things like that, but the idea that every mass that I've ever been to was all about peace be with you and also with you. That's Catholic stuff, you know what I mean? And I go to lots of Protestants, just the better ideas that we have now about Christianity, how they evolve, all the different sects of Christianity that there are. Islam only has two, and there's a mosque over here off Route 7 where Sunni and Shia can pray in the same building. I just kind of went on my own volition. I was curious, I was in the neighborhood, and I just chit-chatted with the imam that was there, and it was really, really cool to learn that that's what they do. So all this stuff that's written down in a book or something like that, it's like, where does this stuff really apply today? You know what I mean? Like, is this so the Easter bunny comes from it's an old pagan holiday. You know what I mean? It's a rabbit from Germany. And kind of like Santa Claus, they would judge all the children, and whoever was good would get treats and stuff like that. And we have a few Pennsylvanians, the German Pennsylvanians came over around the 1700s and just established that, and it's become part of the culture. Now, if you really subscribe that much into it, are you going to just go ahead and just boycott Easter because it's not authentic, right? And then if you go into the, again, King James Bible, there's something about Virginians, you know what I mean? We're the oldest lawmaking body in the world, and the way that we separate our religion and politics and just life, how we can take the fruits, what is useful, what is actually unifying, and then just move on. And I made it a case for that mosque off Route 7, things like that. So, it's just, even if you were like, why would you like just really knowing that Easter, the rabbit, all that is a pagan holiday. And if you look through the scriptures of King James that was compiled therein, you know what I mean? It's like you're pagans of sin. You should only believe in one God only. Even going tracing that back all the way to Abraham himself, you know what I mean? And just how I think was his dad a toy maker, you know what I mean? And was Abraham jealous? You know, we should simplify this. Don't idolize, yada yada yada. Going back even before Abraham, there was a thing called Zoroastrianism. They worship fire. Where do you think that comes from? The concept of angels, that's from Greece. You know what I mean? So really question what is, I'm not questioning faith itself. Faith is very important. There's a thing in the circles that I attend, faith without works is dead. It might scare some people who aren't religious or spiritual, but like, what does that mean? Oh my God, does that mean? It just means that if I don't, I guess, if I love my cat and I'm tired, you know what I mean? And like, but I'm not tired to the point where I need to be bedridden, and just take a little action. I don't feel like it, I do it anyways, and then I end up feeling better. It's better if I don't do that, then it's easy for me just to lie in bed, watch TV, become all catatonic, and then just let the world pass me by. You know what I mean? And knowledge is power. You know what I mean? It's not, but you have to question that knowledge. You know what I mean? Where is that knowledge coming from? How old is it? Et cetera. Even again, Einstein, like there's things in there that, or Freud, that we are disproving. When they went in there genuinely with their best reasoning and just being human about it, that's what they came up with, and we can build on top of it. We still honor these people, things like that, things like Jesus, fine. You know what I mean? The way that Jesus lived, simplest terms, was to love thy neighbor. It wasn't to, there's lots of things. One of my favorite scriptures these days, especially, is Matthew 21:12. I see a lot of parallels with that in J6. You know what I mean? Like the Jesus overthrew the synagogue because they were gambling in there. That's exactly what's happening right now. 70% of their time is just campaigning and getting funding. The incumbent over here, especially, this guy hasn't spent a penny of his own net worth campaigning or holding office, nothing. It's all based on PAC money and his capital trading, all his stock trading. He's more than doubled his net worth, right? And then you got this other guy on the right, here at Christian Kim, who's just because you're Christian, your middle name is Christian, and that means you're infallible. No, this guy is completely disillusioned and unconstitutional. Like everything about him, you know what I mean? It's like he seems to obsess a lot about gays and transgenders. When people do that, when they project like that so much, there's something going on with you. I know in my spiritual program that if I'm uneasy about something, there's something wrong with me, and I need to take a look at that. You know what I mean? So, the Biden issuing I don't think it's an executive order, but the Transgender Day of Visibility, he didn't invent that. That's an international day that started in 2009. If I was president, would I have announced that on Easter? Maybe not. You know what I mean? It doesn't really bother me that much. You see what I'm saying? It makes sense to me that the children under the certain age, again, you'd have to talk to a doctor at 12. I know Florida just passed something where teaching sex and things like that. We started learning that in 5th grade, right? And it was co-ed, I believe, a little bit. And then when you get into 7th grade, they separated out girls get into their menstrual cycles and things like that. But as far as like how to have sex and things like that, that's nobody tells that. You know what I mean? Maybe you have uncles or friends and stuff like that. That just happens naturally, right? There's other things you can entertain yourself down there. I don't subscribe to that kind of art these days. You know what I mean? It's not real. You know what I mean? It's very easy to get all caught up in that stuff. So when it comes to just things that are in the King James Bible, I mean, the fact that there's even an argument of religion and politics these days, it's absurd. And it really comes down to the evolution of things. If you could use the analogy of a skateboard, you know what I mean? You got some surfers out there, and it's like the 50s, 60s, and you got your roller skates, and some innovative person comes along and takes a 2x4 and puts roller skates underneath it. And then there's your skateboard, slowly evolves into Tony Hawk has a really cool documentary out there. It's called Until the Wheels Fall Off. And this is really cool. This guy, there's a quote that I've been it's one of my favorites, and it's from his experience. I love that. People that actually have experience with things, being honest up in front of the camera and using their fame or whatever it is, or just on the street, even if you're just somebody who's not in the public eye. And fame is the worst drug. It's the worst drug. That's what he says. And that vanity of it, just like how people just kind of throw themselves at you, the culture that we have of I don't know. It's another example is the Beatles. You know what I mean? Like that's not always what it seems. You know what I mean? Like John Lennon eventually moved to New York because just the way that people were friendly and treated him like a human being. He couldn't go anywhere in the UK without them chasing him around. You know, some people may think that that would be great. Oh wow, you wouldn't be bored. From a perspective of Tony Hawk, it's the worst drug. How he demoralized him. People are just throwing themselves at you, whatever it is that you want, all those things, and eventually he survived that, and so a lot of people don't. Um, you know what I mean? Guys like Robin Williams, whatever. You don't know what that's like. You know what I mean? You may think that how much good you've done in the world, but that morbid reflection that maybe something underlying that you have, just you can't face for yourself or something. I don't know. I'm not in Robin Williams' head, but so again with Tony Hawk and just evolving with just like a lot of pool skating and just like the shape of the board and the kind of the tricks that he innovated that would conform to his body. The only reason why Tony Hawk was able to get that much air is because of his how tall and lanky he is. You know what I mean? He did some street, but just like you are built for certain things, that doesn't mean you can't pursue them. You know what I mean? There's lots of you can always. We all love that the getting stuck in these little molds and then breaking out of them. You know what I mean? That's what America's free will. America's about freedom. America has no opinion on stuff like that, but just as long as it's not breaking the law, and that's what mixing religion and politics, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I'm using that analogy here because if you look at Kennedy, when Kennedy was running, he was the first Catholic president, right? And he was getting a lot of popularity. And even in this day, a lot of people on the right still love Kennedy. If you dig deep, there's things in there that you could be like, whoa, I can't believe, he would manipulate the federal departments and squash competition or whatever it was. And but just the way that he spoke, how genuine he was and how things like that. But everyone was concerned that he was going to impose his religious beliefs in the country. And he very simply said, look, I don't answer the Pope and the Pope doesn't answer to me. People believe that, and that's exactly what he did. You know what I mean? There was interesting that's we had to experience that as Americans. And again, Kennedy is a good example of everything where we're at, today with the parties, where, and Nixon and Kennedy and all that stuff. So where through that popularity and through that subconscious evolution throughout the generations, where let's say Nixon, they saw how popular he was able to do, but because of the lack of better ideas that the right has been imposing since then, it's become this alienating commercialization of just that's why if you've ever done any kind of art or anything like that, art is all about the original expression of self. If you're playing a guitar, you know what I mean? There's lots of guitar players to actually, if you're going to make it, if you want to be like the next big thing, some of that happens by chance. It's a little bit of what you know and who you know. But it's going to be something original. It's going to be something that's out there, like Kurt Cobain, an original way of playing. It's like everyone knows just how he was able to use a few power chords and make a song out of it. But there's more to it. It's that creative process, like what the message was in the music and things like that. So that's pretty much what it is on the right. You know what I mean? When you see these things about you may not even be aware that you're doing it. You know what I mean? There's things in the King James Bible. Again, that was a form of government that just clearly we didn't want as Americans. We just didn't want it. It's only been an issue again for the last 50 years because of the commercialization of it. Lack of better ideas. Everyone's campaigning 70% of their time on that, and only 30%, if that, is getting done. And we're all like, wow, that's why most people are independent these days. I'm an independent candidate. I lean left. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that the parties are ever going to go away. It's just an illusion, that where the people are always going to group together and have ideas until that loudest duck starts to quack. You know what I mean? That will be the person to carry our message. That's pretty much what happens in our constitutional democratic republic is what we have here. It's very clear. It says it right there in the Constitution on how we elect our leaders based off numbers in every cycle. You know what I mean? That's based on what the people want, right? It's a written form of government, democratically voted on what the people want. And unfortunately, because of all the money, there's only a 30% resolve anything. Climate change, borders, women's rights, transgender rights. just because the I see this guy here at Christian Kim, and it's like, dude, let it go. You know what I mean? Fine, if you want to at a certain age, great, fine, 12, 10, whatever it is in that state, based on medicine where they're developing, with parents superseding that. That's something parents are going to have to go through. You know what I mean? They have discussions. The government has no say in that. You know what I mean? If your 12 or 13-year-old starts to explore these ideas of who they are and what modern technology can provide for them. We live in an Anthropocene, how human beings, just evolve and use their environment, and now it's completely dependent on how we interact with it. So, again, it's really absurd. It's absurd that you can take whatever that's in the King James Bible and just go with it just because you think it's going to make you popular, or it raises the fires in people, and that makes you have some sort of disillusioning power. You know what I mean? Again, parents are going to have discussions with their kids and make the choice. Like, no, you know what I mean? Like, we've all seen it. If this kid really wants that at 15, and the parent says no, you're gonna have to wait. You can't just run off and go get a surgery or somewhere. And if you did, that person, whatever official doctor or not, would have to be held accountable, because that would be against the law, right? But if you're over 18, this is the United States. It doesn't matter. Religion ain't got nothing to do with it. Whatever you decide to go and do out there, you know what I mean? It's not hurting anybody. That's the basic principle. So be it. You know what I mean? I have no problems with that. And these numbers they're so anomalous. They're so small because of the lack of better ideas. I go to here at Christian Kim's website. There's no. He says he's multicultural and blah blah. No, you're talking about skin color, bro. You know what I mean? You're not focused on real multiculturalism. And even then, I support multiculturalism. You don't see me hanging out with transgenders all day. You don't see me hanging out with gays. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is. You know what I mean? I might go play basketball or whatever, and that's just what I like to do. And whoever's there, I don't care. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, I like all different kinds of music, food. I mean, that's as much as culture we're going to get. You know what I mean? He just wants that alienated, you can see it, just that alienated version of conservatism, or whatever you want to call it, based off of lack of better ideas, King James precepts in the Bible. You just can't do that. It doesn't work. I mentioned Matthew 21:12 a minute ago, and how Jesus had overthrown the gambling in the synagogue. And if you look at J6, the manipulation of it, where that was essentially why they were there. There's a lot of poor white people that didn't feel like they had a voice, and Trump spoke to them. He manipulated them, and Trump didn't do what he said he was going to do. Now look at him. He spent Easter just going on these rants of resentment of everyone that's holding him accountable, and then he tries to call it's their fault. He's trying to. That is such a weak argument. You know what I mean? Don't do the crime. You know what I mean? I got it backwards. Don't do the time if you can't do the crime. Right? So, wow, I'm not the only one that sees this. I'm not the first person to ever say this or that about the King James Bible, politician or not. Lincoln was a huge part of that. Lincoln was he struggled with the meanings and the universal truths that were in the Bible. And there very much are some universal truths in the Bible. But that wasn't his fundamental thing. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a quote out there where he says, when I do good, I feel good, and that's my religion. But he just kind of wrestled with that throughout his life. You know what I mean? And that's fundamental to all Americans. That's why we have an Amendment 1. Like, the founders knew that people were gonna. If you look at that Amendment 1, it's basically, we're going to allow everything that's peaceable, and anything that the people want in between there, that is what we're going to do. All right. So it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of time getting all wrapped up in ideologues of religion and things like that. And I know about Christianity and, again, and Abrahamic religion, and how even then the founders of Islam. You know what I mean? If Christianity fundamentally worked back then for everybody in the way that it was like intended, there should be some sort of utopia or heaven on earth, which, hey, we might evolve to the day where everything is peaceable and you can call it heaven. Sure. It's been 2,000 years now since we've been trying to do that with the Bible. I'm not talking about Jesus, the man himself. Everyone loves Jesus. You know what I mean? There's not much there. There's not, you know what I mean? Just the way he lived. He believed in helping the sick, the poor. You know what I mean? He taught love thy neighbor. He said some other things too. he said some other wacky things. You know what I mean? And then, again, I'm not the first person to say that, so don't try to like come at me with anything. George Washington was a Freemason. I've looked into the Freemasons. The first thing in there, they don't care what religion you are, as long as you have a God and it's that you believe in. That's not yourself, right? And it's fraternal. There are a lot of other sister kind of organizations that are incorporated with that. So the country is now in no way founded in the Christian religion. That's a quote from John Adams, the Treaty of Tripoli. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah, a lot of the founders were Christian, but they knew, again, if you subscribe to everything in the King James Bible, then it would be tyranny. And it is. You know what I mean? So I mentioned Matthew 21:12 because I think that's a fascinating parallel. That's what's good. There's stories in the Bible that can teach us, what not to do if you want to be happy. You know what I mean? Like that Matthew 21:12 is so interesting because that makes sense. By legal terms, that it's very illegal. You can't just go into the Capitol and just kick everyone's ass. You know what I mean? Like you're Neo or Beatrix Kiddo or something like that, and just take everybody out for gambling. It's still there. All that gambling is still there. You know what I mean? Just because you're up there at a mic talking about it, that doesn't resolve it. And then what did Trump do? Just blamed the left proactively. He's a hypocrite. I've said this before. So really the solution there is American Anti-Corruption Act, right? Look into that. That's going to limit the lobbying. It's going to limit when they can campaign. It's going to take away the unconstitutional redistricting. It's going to include ranked choice voting right away. Trump got in your head. If you hear that, we're going to get rid of ranked choice voting. Why? Because he wants to take away your freedoms. He wants to take away I would love to argue with Donald Trump. I would love it. I would so much. Oh man, everything about him is just it's all messed up. I don't want the right to kill. I want to see the you gotta whatever religion is fine. You know what I mean? That's fine. But really what's evolved on the right is the fiscal responsibility. That comes from Nixon. That's a good thing, right? Focus on that. Help us on the left who want to have general welfare to others, but show us where. And that's what they try to do. But then you've got guys on the left who believe in a form of American socialism. You know what I mean? The people are not capable of doing these things on their own. So let's just give them more teat to do it. You know what I mean? And then I'm your knight in shining armor or whatever. That's exactly how Don Beyer is. Look at how much money that he has, and that he just kind of imposes those things quietly. He doesn't defend himself on it. He's totally like this. I think for me, this is something that I'm going through, and I hope that the press and everyone else will get a hold of it. The numbers are clearly there that most people are independent, and these are the reasons why. It's because the right is taking too much religious disillusionment. The left is going too far with certain Marxist, if you want to subscribe to that word. It hasn't gone blown out, out of proportion because we've been debating that for too long. Like, we're not going to go there. Okay, now's the time to come together with everything. And you know what I mean? It's a waste of time. You know what I mean? Like most people are independent for those reasons, and they're just gonna, and they know it too. We're just gonna put whoever is on that ballot. We're just gonna pick that whatever we're accustomed to, whatever it is, and then it's just gonna stay the same. So I'm able to get. I made some adjustments with some of my finances, my personal finances, to help get canvassers and get signatures. So my name will be on the ballot. Hopefully, here I've got less than 12 weeks to do it. So my name will be on that ballot. Does that mean that the people around here are actually going to do their research and see that? Is the media going to help me at all? Mainstream media going to help me at all? And be like, look, we're independents for this reason. And this is very special to me because George Washington was an independent. He lived and died here in Virginia's Congress in the 8th district. Mount Vernon, it's right there. You know what I mean? I look outside my window at work at the law firm that I work at, and there is the National Mason Monument right there. So he's got two, one in DC, and then he's got one in Alexandria, which is privately funded. So you know what I mean? It's just a bunch of alienating mess. I could go on and on with that. It's very simple. General welfare, fiscal responsibility. I hope I'm not ranting too much. I wanted to make this I'm all about it. I visited my grandmother's today, and my niece is there, and they've adopted her, and you know, she's doing well, and she's got her Easter eggs, and I don't talk to her about this stuff. I don't alienate her. You know what I mean? I brought it. My grandmother doesn't like chocolate, but I got a nice little chocolate egg, cost less than $10 or whatever, and then I dropped it off and spent a few minutes over there, and just chit chatted with, you know, that's fine. You know, let children, you know, they don't. They can have Easter, you know, when they grow up and they can learn. I was always very fond of these things. Just so you're making a little bit of money selling chocolate and Easter bunnies, you know what I mean, on the day that Jesus was resurrected. You know what I mean? And it's not that big of a deal. It's really, you know, but it's that, like, you can't make that a law. You can't, but people just kind of freely do that. You know what I mean? If a state wanted, I don't know why you would, but if a state came around and said, no, you know what I mean? Like, there's no real problems with Easter. You know, the children don't give us any problems with, you know, buying chocolate, you know, and things like that. But because of Amendment 1, we're going to go ahead and, but even then, that balance of Amendment 1, well, why aren't you allowed to, you know, if kids are putting like M80s, you know, in there and stuff like that, and they're going out in public, well, you wouldn't hold Easter accountable for that. You'd hold that kid or whatever adult or whoever, how that person got an M80. You see what I'm saying? It's just that simple. So, Hirak, if you're listening, leave the gays and transgender alone. Find a new job if you can. I don't know. You know, Don Byer, you know, just retire. You know what I mean? Your money, we don't want it. There's a wonderful quote by Sam Adams that he says something to the effect of, you know, if ye love liberty more than the animating contest of freedom, then we don't want your money. Go kiss the hand that feeds you. We don't want your arms. We don't want your council of arms. That's not who we are. You know, that's really cool that the Adamses brought that kind of thing with them. And reading it through history is one thing, but then, you know, HBO has cool stuff. That stuff has been checked out. Tom Hanks is. I just watched Saving Private Ryan again. I would love to see Hirak Christian's Kim, what he thinks about what his reaction to be to Saving Private Ryan. This guy's talking about how Hitler was a genius, this and that, all this stuff. Trump himself even read Hitler's book. You know what I mean? Wow, like it's pretty stupid, and we all see that, and just connecting with it on the social media, and there's not much that anyone else can do, and all I can do is call them out. I've debated, challenged them, nothing. Most people are independent. What are you afraid of? You trying to think I'm going to die by my own sword, or are you just going to let the machine take care of everything for you? And how do you sleep at night with that? How are you okay with that? How are you okay with going to high schools around here and just having children? Your example sucks, Buyer. It does. I'm sick of it. You know what I mean? I'm not the only one. You know what I mean? Around here, people are afraid of conflict. Everyone's afraid of conflict. And I've never really lived anywhere else, so I don't know. But well, New Yorkers are much different. You know, if you go over there, people are so much more freer about just being people. You know what I mean? It's the city never sleeps, and it's just different. Like if you hear someone hollering, it's like accepted. You right here, everyone like kind of like, look, what's the big deal? What's going on? It's just the neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like it's not like LA or anything like that. But people are very timid around here. They're very just like that. And if no one speaks up on these things, if no one's gonna push it through, then nothing's ever gonna change. I was gonna spend some time. I was gonna go through MSN.com. I like to look on there every once in a while and see what's going on. Plus, their algorithms will kind of show you what you're used to and everything. But MSN will have a whole broad scope of just stuff that they throw in there. And then I cross-check it with the immediate bias chart. I wanted to just kind of randomly do that, but it seems that 30 minutes went by really fast. I have 1 minute left. So yeah, just remember the question and everything. Just because it's in the Bible doesn't make it something that we want. You don't have to go for it. And if you did, it would be tyrannical. There's a really cool West Wing did this. I could never match better than what Martin Sheen did to this uptight conservative, where how she said that gays was her sin, and just how he went off on just those old archaic laws about like pigskin and different threads and how you can enslave your daughter. You know what I mean? You don't hear those arguments. So anyhow, happy Easter. You know, let's peace be with you and all that good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and sign out of here, and I will see you next week.